Good evening. Tonight, we invite you to ascend the stone staircase of a grand clock tower that has stood watch over a historic European city for generations. Within its ancient walls, a magnificent mechanical heart beats with patient precision, marking the passage of time through the turning of brass gears and the swing of pendulums. As the city settles into sleep below, we'll drift through the warm golden light of this timeless chamber, where every movement is measured and every moment is held in perfect balance. If you find comfort in the rhythm of this mechanical world, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue crafting these peaceful journeys into tranquility. Golden light filters through translucent clock faces, casting long shadows across the brass gears. Dusk settles over the historic city below, and within the tower's chamber, the mechanism continues its eternal rotation. The great brass wheels turn with patient precision, each tooth engaging the next in a rhythm that has marked the passing hours for decades. Warm illumination from the clock face bathes the interior in amber tones, highlighting the worn surfaces of metal polished smooth by countless revolutions. The steady ticking fills the enclosed space, a constant heartbeat of measured intervals. Wooden platforms encircle the central mechanism, their planks creaking softly under the subtle vibrations transmitted through iron walkways. Oil glistens in shallow reservoirs at the base of each gear shaft, reflecting the golden glow like tiny pools of captured sunlight. The air carries the faint scent of brass and aged timber, mingled with the subtle warmth rising from the mechanical assembly below. As twilight deepens outside, the tower's interior grows more luminous by contrast. The clock face becomes a beacon, its translucent panels glowing softly against the darkening sky. Shadows shift and dance with each rotation of the escapement wheel, creating a hypnotic pattern across the curved stone walls. The network of interlocking gears continues its perpetual dance, each component fulfilling its purpose in the grand choreography of timekeeping. Night settles fully over the city, and the tower stands tall above the rooftops, its illuminated faces marking the hours for all below. Within the mechanism chamber, the grinding of brass against brass creates a low, soothing drone that blends with the rhythmic ticking. The ancient machinery settles into its nocturnal routine, unchanged and unchanging, a monument to precision and endurance. The shadows deepen now, pooling in the corners where the wooden platforms meet the stone walls. Each gear tooth catches a glimmer of lamplight as it passes through the mechanism's eternal rotation. The largest wheel, nearly the height of the chamber itself, turns with patient deliberation, its rim marked by generations of careful maintenance. Oil glistens in the pivot points, dark and viscous, applied season after season to keep the motion smooth. Beyond the clock faces, the city's evening lights begin to emerge, distant pinpricks of warmth against the gathering dark. The tower stands above it all, a sentinel of measured time. Inside, the temperature begins its nightly descent. The stone walls releasing the day's accumulated heat in slow, invisible waves. The iron walkways contract slightly, settling with the occasional soft creak that blends into the mechanical chorus. The pendulum continues its hypnotic swing below, a gleaming arc of polished brass that divides each second into being. Its rod extends down through the framework, disappearing into the lower chamber where the weights hang on their chains. Everything here exists in service to continuity, each component designed to outlast the decades, to keep the rhythm unbroken through countless nights like this one. Dust motes drift through the amber light, visible only where the glow is strongest. The air carries the scent of old wood and metal, of oil and stone, a mixture that speaks of permanence and purpose. The evening watch settles deeper, the tower claiming its place in the darkness above the sleeping streets below. The tower settles deeper into its evening routine. Each rotation of the escapement wheel releases a soft metallic whisper that mingles with the low hum of the main drive shaft. Oil glistens in tiny reservoirs at each pivot point, catching the amber glow and reflecting it back in warm pinpoints of light. The air holds the scent of brass polish and old wood, a combination aged into the very bones of the structure. High above, the pendulum rod extends upward through a narrow shaft lined with worn brick. Its steady arc continues undisturbed, a metronome for the entire mechanism. Below, the wooden platform creaks gently under the weight of the great wheel assembly. Dust motes drift lazily through shafts of golden light, following invisible currents created by the turning gears. The iron walkways radiate outward like spokes, their railings smooth from decades of contact. The clock faces themselves become lanterns as night deepens over the city. Their translucent surfaces glow outward, illuminating the mechanism from within the tower. Shadows of the hour and minute hands sweep slowly across gear teeth and chain links, creating a perpetual dance of light and dark. Smaller gears near the winding drums tick in faster rhythms, their teeth meshing with perfect precision. Every surface, every angle has been shaped by time and purpose into something both functional and beautiful. The evening air cools the stone walls, and the metal framework contracts with the softest of sighs. The clock tower breathes with the night, its heartbeat steady and sure. All is balanced. All is measured. The mechanism continues its ancient vigil as darkness settles over the rooftops far below. The last traces of daylight retreat from the tower's upper reaches, leaving behind a deep indigo darkness beyond the glass. Inside, the mechanism continues its eternal rotation, undisturbed by the transition from day to night. The central escapement wheel clicks forward, tooth by tooth, its brass surface catching and releasing the anchor with perfect regularity. Each movement sends a subtle vibration through the iron framework, a rhythm felt rather than heard. Ambient warmth rises from the lower floors, pooling near the vaulted ceiling where wooden beams meet stonework worn smooth by decades of moisture and temperature change. The clock faces themselves seem to breathe with light, their painted numerals standing in sharp relief against the translucent backing. Outside, the city settles into evening routines. But here, nothing changes. The pendulum rod descends through its housing, a steady vertical line of polished steel that divides the space with unwavering precision. Shadows pool in the corners where maintenance tools rest against the stone, their handles darkened by years of contact, edges softened by use. The winding drums stand ready, their massive weight cables coiled and tensioned, holding the potential energy that drives the entire assembly. A faint metallic scent lingers in the air, the familiar trace of oil and brass mingled with the dry mustiness of old wood. The tower embraces the night, its purpose unchanging, its rhythm as constant as the stars beginning to appear beyond the glass. The minute hand advances with a barely perceptible shudder, its progress marked by the incremental shift of gears below. Everything rests in balance. Weight and counterweight, tension and release, the perfect equilibrium of a system designed to outlast generations. The evening watch has truly begun. The evening deepens around the tower, settling into a rhythm as constant as the mechanism itself. Outside the tall arched windows, the first stars emerge above the rooftops, faint pinpricks against the deepening blue. Within the chamber, the golden light from the clock faces has grown richer, more amber, pooling in warm circles on the worn wooden platforms. The brass components gleam with a softer luster now, their surfaces reflecting the gentle illumination that fills every corner of the space. A subtle shift in temperature accompanies the transition from dusk to night. The stone walls, which held the warmth of the day, begin to release it slowly into the tower's interior. The air carries a particular stillness found only in high places after sunset, when the bustle of the streets below fades to distant murmurs. The clock face glass, so bright with transmitted sunlight hours ago, now serves as a lantern, its translucent surface glowing outward into the darkness beyond. Each Roman numeral stands in sharp relief, outlined in shadow and light. The iron walkways trace their familiar paths around the mechanism, their railings catching stray beams of amber light. Beneath them, the lower levels of the tower recede into soft shadow, while above, the upper gears continue their patient rotation near the peaked ceiling. Oil lanterns, positioned at intervals along the supporting beams, flicker gently in drafts too subtle to feel, adding their own wavering light to the steady glow of the clock faces. The entire chamber seems suspended in time, a pocket of calm industry high above the sleeping city. The night watch has truly begun. The tower stands sentinel, as it has for decades, its heartbeat measured in ticks and mechanical size. Every component, from the smallest pawl to the largest wheel, performs its designated task with unwavering precision. A symphony of brass and iron that will continue until dawn breaks once more over the city's spires. The last traces of twilight fade from the glass panes, leaving only the warm internal glow to illuminate the chamber. Each clock face becomes a lantern unto itself, radiating steady amber light that pools on the wooden platforms below. The temperature within the tower settles into its evening coolness, a gentle contrast to the lingering warmth held within the massive brass components that have absorbed the daylight hours. A pendulum rod catches the light as it sweeps through its arc, the polished metal gleaming momentarily before returning to shadow. The rhythm continues without variation, each swing marking time with quiet precision. Oil reservoirs glisten faintly in their copper housings, the lubricant within ensuring smooth passage of every tooth and bearing. Chains hang in perfect vertical alignment, their links darkened by age and use, each one supporting the steady descent of weights far below. The hour settles deeper into night, and the tower embraces its role as sentinel over the sleeping city. Dust motes have ceased their floating dance, coming to rest on railings and ledges untouched by the mechanism's motion. The great wheel at the heart of the assembly turns with deliberate patience, its teeth engaging and releasing in an endless cycle of controlled power. Each surface, each angle of brass and iron, holds its position in the grand design, unchanging and reliable. The evening watch continues, in tranquil permanence. Stone walls retain the coolness of night air, while the clockwork maintains its eternal rhythm. Tick following tick, gear following gear, second following second, into the peaceful darkness. The steady grinding of metal on metal creates a low, continuous hum through the chamber. Large brass gears turn in synchronized harmony, their worn surfaces catching the dim light that filters through from the illuminated clock face beyond. Each tooth meshes perfectly with the next, a dance of precision that has repeated without pause for decades. The massive wheels rotate at their own measured pace, some completing a full revolution in minutes, others taking hours to return to their starting position. The brass is taken on a deep golden patina, darkened in the recesses where oil and time have left their mark, polished bright along the contact points where gear meets gear. Fine dust motes drift through the air, visible only when they pass through the narrow beams of amber light. The wooden platforms surrounding the mechanism remain still and solid, their planks worn smooth from years of patient presence. Iron railings curve along the walkways, cool to the touch, their surfaces bearing the texture of old forgework. Smaller gears nestle between the larger wheels, their rotations quick and delicate compared to the slow majesty of the central mechanism. The teeth click softly as they engage, a counterpoint to the deeper grinding of the main drive. Shafts and axles extend in all directions, connecting this level to the mechanisms above and below. Every surface seems to breathe with subtle movement, the entire assembly alive with purpose, turning the hours into motion and motion into measured time. The warm glow from the clock face beyond casts long shadows across the chamber, painting the walls in shifting patterns of light and dark. The rhythm continues, unchanging and unhurried, a mechanical heartbeat that marks the passage of night. The air carries the faint scent of metal and old machine oil, familiar and constant. The rotation continues, each tooth finding its place with the quiet certainty of countless repetitions. Oil glistens in the grooves between brass teeth, dark and viscous, applied long ago to ease the endless friction. Small droplets cling to the metal edges, catching the warm glow from the clock face beyond. The scent of old lubricant and brass dust hangs faintly in the air, a familiar perfume of mechanical devotion. Beneath the largest gear, shadows sweep across the wooden platform in slow, predictable arcs. The timber beneath is stained dark with age, its grain smoothed by decades of vibration. Iron bolts anchor the great mechanism to stone foundations hidden below, their heads worn into soft circles. Every surface within this chamber bears the gentle marks of time's passage, polished by air and motion into a kind of reverence. The smaller gears encircling the central assembly turn at their own prescribed speeds, some racing through rotations, others moving with glacial patience. Each contributes to the whole, transferring force through the network of teeth and axles. The interplay creates layers of sound, high clicks mingling with deep grinding tones, all blending into the tower's perpetual song. Dust motes drift lazily through shafts of golden light, unbothered by the mechanical ballet surrounding them. The rhythm holds steady, unchanging, as reliable as the stars wheeling overhead beyond the tower's stone walls. Within this chamber, motion is purpose, and purpose is eternal. The teeth of the great wheels continue their ancient dialogue, each groove shaped by countless rotations. Oil darkened by time gathers in tiny reservoirs along the axles, its surface reflecting the warm glow from the clock face beyond. The scent of old metal and machine oil hangs in the still air, a familiar perfume of industry and precision. Smaller pinion gears orbit their larger companions, their delicate teeth meshing with mathematical certainty. The iron framework supporting this network of motion stands firm, its bolts and joints weathered but unyielding. Shadows shift slowly across the wooden platforms as the mechanism turns, creating patterns that repeat with each revolution, predictable as the stars themselves. Dust motes drift through the golden light, settling on horizontal surfaces, only to be stirred again by the subtle vibrations of the working gears. The brass surfaces show their history in patches of darker patina, areas polished bright by constant friction, contrasting with corners left untouched. Each gear wheel bears the marks of its purpose, worn smooth, where motion demands, textured where stillness prevails. The rhythm of the mechanism continues unchanged, a testament to careful design and enduring materials. The tower holds this clockwork heart in its stone embrace, sheltering the turning wheels from wind and weather, allowing the steady pulse of time to proceed without interruption. The worn brass surfaces bear the marks of countless rotations, their edges polished smooth by decades of constant contact. Each tooth slides past its neighbor with practiced ease, the metal warmed by its own perpetual friction. Fine grooves trace circular patterns across the gear faces, catching and releasing the golden light from the illuminated clock face beyond the mechanism. The patina deepens in the recesses, where oil has darkened the metal over years of careful maintenance. Between the largest gears, smaller pinions and escapement wheels maintain their intricate dance. The central arbor rotates with stately precision, transmitting force through the layered system of cogs and ratchets. Wooden platform boards creak softly under the weight of the machinery. The aged planks worn smooth along their centers. Iron brackets anchor each gear shaft to the tower's stone walls. Their surface is spotted with rust that speaks of storms weathered and seasons past. The rhythm never wavers. Each revolution matches the one before. Each engagement of teeth occurs at its appointed moment. The mechanism breathes with mechanical life, a patient heartbeat of brass and iron that measures out the hours without rest. Shadows shift gradually across the chamber walls as the exterior clock hands progress across the illuminated dial. The golden glow filters through gaps in the framework, painting slow-moving bands of light across the turning wheels. The tower settles deeper into the quiet hours, the city below fading into slumber, while the gears continue their endless rotation. The warmth of the mechanism mingles with the cool night air drifting through the high windows, creating gentle currents that carry the scent of oil and old brass through the chamber. The momentum of the great wheels holds steady through the quiet hours. Each brass tooth finds its partner with precision born of countless rotations, the edges worn into smooth curves that fit together like old companions. The rhythm never falters, never rushes. Oil seeps slowly along the metal surfaces, dark and viscous in the grooves where friction once ran hot. Now the motion is easy, almost effortless, as if the machinery has learned the path by heart. Smaller gears cluster around the central mechanism, each one a link in the endless chain of motion. Their teeth catch the amber light filtering through the clock face, creating brief glints that travel around each wheel like sparks on a slow fuse. The wooden platforms absorb the vibration. The grain of the timber, darkened by decades of oil mist and metal dust. Iron brackets hold firm against the constant pressure, their bolts seated deep into the tower's stone walls. Everything moves. Yet everything remains exactly where it belongs. The largest gear completes another full rotation, its massive circumference carrying the weight of the entire timekeeping system. Shadows slide across its surface, following the curve of each spoke as it passes beneath the clock face's glow. The air itself seems to pulse with the rhythm, warm currents rising from the friction points, cool drafts descending from the high windows above. The chamber breathes with the machinery, in and out, a meditation of metal and motion that stretches on through the darkness beyond the tower walls. And still the gears turn, patient and unwavering. The night deepens around the tower, but here the golden light persists, steady as the mechanism it illuminates. Each rotation is both an ending and a beginning, the wheels coming full circle only to begin again, measuring time in the language of brass and iron, speaking in the soft hum of perpetual motion. The rhythm deepens as the machinery settles into its eternal pattern. Each gear tooth catches and releases with perfect precision, worn grooves sliding together like polished stone. The brass surfaces gleam where decades of friction have buffed them to a mirror shine. while the shadowed valleys between teeth hold the patina of age. Oil glistens in thin films along the contact points, amber drops catching the golden light as they trace slow paths down the curved metal faces. The largest gear dominates the central shaft, its circumference spanning nearly the width of the chamber. Smaller gears orbit around it like planetary bodies, their rotations governed by the mathematical harmony of teeth and ratios. Some turn with stately slowness, completing a single revolution over many minutes, while others spin with quicker purpose, their motion almost hypnotic in its constancy. The wooden platforms encircling this mechanical solar system stand silent and still, bearing witness to the endless dance of brass and iron. A fine mist of brass dust hangs suspended in the shafts of light, penetrating from the clock face above. It settles in gentle layers on every horizontal surface, coating the iron walkways and wooden beams with a metallic powder soft as pollen. The air itself seems to pulse with the vibration of the gears, a subsonic tremor that resonates through the stone walls and up through the tower's ancient bones. This is the heartbeat of the structure, steady and unwavering, marking time not in seconds, but in the patient grinding of metal against metal. The mechanism continues its work without pause or variation. Each component knows its role, performing the same motion it has executed millions of times before. The tower stands firm around this mechanical core, sheltering the gears from wind and weather, while far below the city sleeps, unaware of the quiet persistence turning high above in the golden darkness. Each swing produces a soft whoosh of air and a decisive tick that echoes upward. The great pendulum hangs suspended in the heart of the tower, its polished brass weight gleaming in the golden lamplight, back and forth. The arc traces the same path it has followed for decades, the rhythm as constant as breath itself. The weight descends through the open framework of iron walkways, a steady presence cutting through the vertical space. With every pass, the air stirs gently, carrying the faint scent of oil and brass through the chamber. At the top of the pendulum's housing, the escapement mechanism waits in precise readiness. Each swing releases one tooth of the escape wheel, allowing it to advance with a soft metallic click. The anchor pivots on its axle, catching and releasing in perfect intervals, translating the pendulum's motion into controlled rotation. The suspension spring flexes minutely with each reversal, absorbing the momentum and guiding the return. Shadows shift across the brass plates in gentle rhythm, the lamplight reflecting off worn surfaces that have performed this dance through countless nights. The ticking resonates through the wooden beams overhead, a measured heartbeat rising toward the clock face high above. Below the escapement, the weight chains hang taut, and still, their burden transferred entirely to the pendulum's steady work. The wooden platforms surrounding the mechanism creak softly as temperature shifts cause imperceptible expansion and contraction. Dust motes drift through the lamplight, disturbed by the pendulum's passage, floating in lazy spirals before settling once more. The stone walls of the tower absorb each tick, the sound softening as it spreads outward into the ancient masonry. Outside, the night air presses cool against the narrow windows, while within, the warmth of the lamp and the ceaseless motion create a pocket of peaceful industry. The pendulum continues its arc, unwavering and eternal. Its rhythm governs all else within the tower, the gentle authority from which every gear takes its cue. The brass surface of the weight catches the light with each pass, a brief golden flash in the surrounding dimness. Time unfolds here not in hurried seconds, but in the graceful sweep of metal through air, in the patient tick that marks each moment with quiet certainty. The pendulum's motion stirs the air in rhythmic waves, a gentle current that flows through the chamber with each passage. Dust motes drift in the golden light, streaming from the clock face, caught in slow spirals by the atmospheric currents. The brass suspension spring flexes with flawless regularity, its polished surface catching glints of illumination as the weight descends and rises in its eternal arc. Below the pendulum's path, the wooden platform shows the faint wear of decades, its surface smoothed by time and the subtle vibrations that travel through the tower's framework. Iron brackets anchor the escapement housing to the stone wall, their metal, cool, and unchanging. The anchor mechanism rocks back and forth in perfect synchronization, releasing one tooth of the escape wheel with each swing, the interaction so precise it produces only the softest metallic whisper. The pendulum rod extends downward in a straight line of dark metal, unwavering in its vertical descent, despite the constant motion at its base. At the bottom, the cylindrical weight hangs secure, its mass calculated to maintain the exact tempo required. The shadows cast by the swinging assembly move across the stone floor in hypnotic repetition, dark crescents that expand and contract with metronomic reliability. Around the chamber, the air itself seems to hold the rhythm, each tick absorbed into the stone and timber before the next arrives. The tower settles deeper into the night, its mechanisms continuing their appointed task, while the city below rests in quiet stillness beneath a blanket of stars. The pendulum's rhythm continues without pause, its brass bob catching fragments of golden light with each pass through the center point. The polished surface reflects the clock face glow in brief flashes, sending warm glints across the wooden supports and iron framework that surround the mechanism. Cool night air filters through the tower windows, barely stirring the steady motion, while dust motes drift lazily through the illuminated paths carved by the swinging weight. Below the suspension point, the long steel rod maintains its perfect arc, decade-worn pivot points moving with practiced ease in their brass housings. Each swing measures the same distance, the same duration, as unchanging as the stars wheeling slowly beyond the tower windows. The escapement wheel waits at the bottom of each arc, receiving its measured impulse with a soft metallic whisper, releasing one tooth at a time to advance the gear train above. The oil in the pivot bearings gleams darkly, carefully placed drops that reduce friction to nearly nothing. Shadows cast by the pendulum sweep across the wooden platform in hypnotic repetition, lengthening and shortening with the angle of the clock face light. The weight at the bottom, A heavy disc of cast iron clad in polished brass moves through the same invisible path it has traced for countless nights. The air itself seems to pulse gently with emotion, a barely perceptible rhythm that flows through the entire chamber. Everything here exists in service to this swing, this eternal back and forth that divides time into comprehensible fragments. The tower settles deeper into its nighttime stillness. The pendulum's steady tempo, the only constant voice in the mechanical silence. Beyond the windows, distant city lights twinkle like earthbound constellations, while within these walls, the ancient dance of weight and gravity continues its patient work, marking each second with quiet certainty beneath the softly glowing clock face. The pendulum's arc continues its eternal journey, the brass weight gleaming as it passes through the golden light cast by the clock face. At the peak of each swing, a moment of stillness hangs in the air before gravity draws it back. The motion so practiced, so perfect, that the surrounding mechanism seems to breathe in rhythm with it. The wooden platform beneath receives the gentle vibration of each passage, a pulse that travels through timber and iron alike. Where the pendulum rod connects to the escapement above, polished steel catches and releases with mathematical precision. The anchor rotates ever so slightly with each swing, allowing the escape wheel to advance one tooth at a time. This conversation between pendulum and escapement has continued without pause for decades. The metal surfaces worn to a mirror smoothness that speaks of countless millions of interactions. A faint scent of brass and old machine oil drifts on the air currents created by the pendulum's passage. The weight driving the pendulum hangs on its cable far below. A massive cylinder of cast iron that descends slowly, imperceptibly, through the tower's central shaft. Around it, the shadows shift and settle as the night deepens outside the tower walls. The pendulum's rhythm never wavers, never hesitates. Its swing is reliable as the stars that wheel overhead beyond the stone and timber. Each tick marks another second gifted to the sleeping city below. Another moment measured and acknowledged by the tireless mechanism. The air in the tower chamber remains still, except for the pendulum's gentle disturbance, a recurring breeze that stirs nothing but itself. Dust motes drift lazily through the golden light, following paths determined by that rhythmic movement. The night settles deeper. The mechanism continues its patient work, and the pendulum swings on, steady and eternal, marking time with quiet devotion. The pendulum continues its eternal arc through the shadowed space, the polished brass weight catching fragments of golden light with each pass. The rhythm never falters, never quickens, never slows. Below, the wooden platform absorbs the gentle vibration of the mechanism, a pulse so steady it becomes part of the tower itself. The air remains still except for those soft whispers of movement, that recurring whoosh as metal cleaves through darkness. High above, the illuminated clock face casts its warm glow downward, painting the ironwork in shades of amber and honey. The pendulum's shadow sweeps across the platform in a slow, hypnotic dance. elongating and shrinking with the precision of countless repetitions. Dust motes drift lazily through the golden beams, undisturbed by the mechanical ballet below. The escapement releases and catches. A conversation between weight and wheel that has continued without pause through seasons and years. The suspension spring above the pendulum gleams in the half-light, flexing minutely with each swing, absorbing the subtle energies of motion. Around the mechanism, the network of walkways stands silent and patient. Iron rails cool to the touch in the nighttime air. The great weight descends along its track with imperceptible slowness, feeding energy into the system with the patience of stone. Everything exists in perfect balance, each element supporting the next in an unbroken chain of purpose. The tower breathes with the rhythm of the pendulum, the tick and the silence, the whoosh and the stillness. Outside, the historic city sleeps beneath a canopy of stars, while within these walls, time marches forward with the gentle insistence of falling water. The pendulum swings, the gears turn, and the night deepens around the golden glow that marks the hours. The pendulum continues its ancient rhythm, undisturbed and eternal. The polished brass weight at its base catches the golden light from the clock face with each pass, creating a slow dance of reflection across the wooden platform below. The suspension spring above flexes with barely perceptible motion, absorbing and releasing energy in perfect harmony with the swing. Around the pendulum shaft, the air itself seems to move in sympathetic waves, stirred by decades of unceasing motion. Fine particles of brass dust drift lazily through the illuminated space, remnants of gears grinding smooth overhead. The iron walkway beneath vibrates gently with each tick, a resonance felt more than heard, traveling through the tower's ancient bones. The escapement mechanism waits above, its anchor poised to catch the next tooth of the escape wheel. The connection between pendulum and gears remains flawless, a testament to precision engineered long ago. Each regulated beat allows time itself to advance, one measured moment after another, while the city beyond the tower walls rests in peaceful darkness. The pendulum swings on through the quiet hours, its weight steady, its path true. The warm glow from the clock face bathes everything in amber light, while the rhythm of tick and tock continues its endless conversation with the night. Suspended brass weights glint in the darkness, their chains creaking faintly under tension. The massive cylindrical forms hang in the vertical shaft, descending slowly through the hours, driving the tower's tireless rhythm. Each weight is worn smooth by decades of rising and falling, their surfaces catching the warm amber glow that filters down from the clock face above. The chains stretch upward into shadow, link after link disappearing into the wooden framework. A gentle metallic whisper accompanies their descent, the sound of metal sliding through ancient pulleys, steady and unchanging. The great gears continue their rotation, teeth meshing with the precision of countless repetitions. Near the base of the mechanism, the strike train waits in readiness, its hammers poised beside the bronze bell high overhead. The weighted lever arm rests at an angle, held by a catch worn smooth from years of release and reset. Dust motes drift through the golden light, settling on the iron walkway that encircles the central column. The air is cool and still, scented faintly with oil and old wood. Far below, the city sleeps beneath a quilt of rooftops and chimneys. Unaware of the quiet preparation unfolding in the tower above, the minute hand moves closer to the apex of the dial, its shadow creeping across the frosted glass face. Inside the mechanism, a series of smaller gears begin their final rotations, each one contributing to the approaching moment. The escapement continues its steady beat, tick after tick, marking the passage of seconds with unwavering constancy. The wooden beams that support the machinery stand silent and strong, their grain darkened by age and the passage of seasons. A faint draft moves through the tower's interior, carrying with it the cool night air from the ventilation louvers. Everything rests in balance, weight and counterweight, tension and release, all held in the patient embrace of the mechanism's design. The chains stretch taut in their channels, the weights nearing the end of their long descent. Above, the clock face glows softly against the darkness, a beacon of measured time visible across the sleeping cityscape. The gears turn, the pendulum swings, and the tower waits in the quiet stillness of the late hour, ready for the moment when midnight will arrive, and the bells will sing their ancient song once more. The chains stretch downward through iron guides, bolted to the stone walls, their links worn to a dull pewter sheen by countless cycles. Each weight hangs perfectly plumb, balanced by the precise geometry of the mechanism above. The air around them feels heavier, somehow, dense, with the potential energy stored in hundreds of pounds of descending brass. Dust motes drift through the golden light that filters down from the clock face, settling onto the oiled surfaces of the chain wheels. Far below, the stone floor of the weight chamber lies in shadow, marked only by the faint circular wear patterns where the brass cylinders have swung for decades. The chains pass through wooden guide blocks at intervals, each one carved smooth by the slow passage of metal. A draft moves through the tower shaft, carrying with it the scent of old iron and lamp oil. The main escapement wheel above continues its patient rhythm, clicking forward one tooth at a time, drawing the weights ever closer to their lowest point. The hammer linkage rests against its catch, a complex arrangement of levers and springs that awaits the releasing pin. Brass bells hang silent in the belfry overhead, their dark bronze surfaces reflecting nothing in the night. The entire tower seems to hold a quiet breath, every gear and pivot aligned in readiness. Even the ticking seems softer now, as though the mechanism itself knows the moment draws near. The weights descend another fraction of an inch, chains whispering through their guides. Moonlight traces a pale line across the wooden platform near the great wheel. The tower stones, warmed by the day, release their stored heat slowly into the cool night air. Everything waits in the darkness, patient and inevitable as the turning of the earth itself. The chains continue their measured descent, link by link, sliding through the worn guides with a whisper of metal on metal. Each weight hangs perfectly balanced, their polished surfaces catching fleeting reflections from the clock face beyond. The air remains still and cool, undisturbed except for the patient rhythm of the mechanism counting down the final minutes before midnight. Far above, the great bell waits in silence. Its bronze surface, dark and dormant. The hammer mechanism rests against its mounting, poised and ready, held in place by a system of levers and catches that have performed this same ritual for decades. Moonlight filters through the bell chamber louvers, painting thin silver lines across the weathered timbers and the bell's curved flank. Below, in the heart of the tower, the escapement continues its eternal dance. The pendulum swings through shadow and light, its arc as precise now as it was an hour ago, as it will be an hour hence. The strike train gears stand ready, their teeth aligned and waiting for the release that midnight will bring. Everything rests in a state of perfect potential, wound and calibrated. The entire mechanism, a symphony of tension held in check by the steady governance of time itself. The tower breathes quietly around the waiting machinery, stone and timber and brass, all settled into the deepest peace of the night, while the great clock face glows softly against the darkness, marking the slow, inevitable approach of the midnight hour. The weights hang steady now, their descent nearly complete for this cycle. Each chain link bears the polish of endless motion, metal worn smooth by years of sliding through guiding channels. The brass surfaces catch what little light reaches these lower depths, creating brief flickers that dance across the stonework. A faint metallic whisper accompanies the slow, inevitable downward journey. Above, the great wheel continues its patient revolution, teeth meshing with the escapement in perfect rhythm. The mechanism holds its accumulated tension like a drawn breath, energy stored in springs and suspended masses, waiting for the appointed moment. Oil glistens in the recesses between cogged teeth, maintaining the smoothness that allows such precision. Every component rests in its ordained position, aligned by decades of calibration. The pendulum's arc remains constant, its heavy bob sweeping through the shadows with unwavering tempo. Each swing measures the passing seconds. The bronze surface darkened by time but still true in its purpose. The air around the mechanism carries the familiar scent of metal and aged wood, undisturbed by wind or weather. Somewhere in the clockwork's heart, a pin approaches a cam, ready to release the chiming sequence when midnight arrives. The tower waits in its timeless vigil, gears poised, weights balanced, springs tensioned. All is quiet save for the eternal tick, the gentle breath of machinery at rest, yet never sleeping. The hour draws near. The weights continue their patient descent through the shadowed interior, each link of chain passing over worn pulleys with a whisper of metal on metal. The brass surfaces catch fleeting reflections from the clock face above, brief flashes of gold that travel downward with the slow, inexorable pull of gravity. The air around the hanging cylinders feels cooler here, where stone walls meet the vertical shafts through which the weights have traveled countless times before. Far below, the bases of the weight shafts disappear into darkness, the full length of chains still coiled and ready for the winding that will come with dawn. The tension in each link is precise, calibrated over decades to provide exactly the force needed to drive the great wheels above. Dust motes drift lazily through the dim space, disturbed only by the faint currents of air that rise from the lower chambers and flow past the suspended brass. The mechanism overhead has grown steadily more deliberate in its rhythm, each gear tooth engaging with a measured certainty as midnight draws nearer. The strike train waits in its locked position, held by a single lever that will release at the precise moment when the minute hand reaches the uppermost point of its circular journey. Oil gleams in the lamplight along the pivot points, dark and viscous, ensuring each component moves without resistance when the hour arrives. The tower holds its breath in these final minutes, every element poised and ready. The weights hang steady on their chains. The gears turn with quiet confidence, and the great bell rests silent in its chamber above, waiting for the hammer to wake it from its hourly rest. The weights continue their gradual descent, now lower than before, the brass surfaces dulled by shadow except where the clock face's golden light catches their curved edges. The chains stretch taut, link by link, each one bearing its share of the load with quiet patience. A faint creak echoes through the tower's interior as metal shifts against metal, a sound so soft it barely disturbs the stillness. The wooden platforms below remain empty and waiting, their planks worn smooth by countless cycles. Above, the great gears turn with their unhurried precision, teeth meshing in perfect rhythm, driving the hands across the illuminated dial. The mechanism hums with concentrated purpose, every component aligned toward the approaching hour. Iron rods and brass levers hold their positions, locked in readiness. The air itself seems to thicken with anticipation, though nothing disturbs the tower's ancient calm. Through the narrow window, the city below lies in deep slumber, its streets empty beneath the pale glow of scattered lamps. The pendulum continues its steady arc, its polished brass catching brief flashes of light with each pass. Back and forth, measuring the final minutes before midnight with the same unwavering constancy it has maintained for decades. The escapement clicks softly, releasing the gears one precise increment at a time. Around the chamber, smaller cogs and wheels turn within their housings, oiled dark in the shadows, their motion nearly invisible, but never ceasing. The tower breathes with mechanical life, patient and eternal. The weights hang lower still, their chains extending through the tower's height, ready to release the energy stored in their slow fall. Dust motes drift lazily through the shaft of golden light, undisturbed by any breeze. The night deepens, and the mechanism waits, prepared to mark the turning of another day with its resonant voice. Narrow streets wind between rooftops, quiet and still under the tower's watchful presence. Through the great clock face, the city spreads below, like a map drawn in shadow and amber light. Soft fog drifts between the buildings, pooling in courtyards and narrow alleyways, muffling the world in gentle silence. Scattered lanterns mark the corners where cobbled lanes meet, their warm glow diffused through the mist into halos of gold. The rooftops stretch away in uneven rows, slate and tile darkened by evening dew. chimneys rising like sentinels above the sleeping streets. The fog thickens in the lower quarters, filling the spaces between stone walls and iron railings. A church spire emerges from the haze several blocks away, its weathered copper roof catching faint moonlight. Nearer, a bridge arches over the unseen canal, its ornate lampposts glowing softly through the mist. The city breathes in silence, every window dark, every doorway still. From this height, the patterns become clear. The radial streets, spreading from the central square, the irregular clusters of merchant quarters, the wide boulevard that curves along the river's hidden edge. All of it rests beneath the turning hands above, beneath the steady rhythm of brass gears. The clockwork continues its patient rotation, indifferent to the slumbering world below. A breeze stirs the fog, and for a moment the market square reveals itself. Empty stalls, a fountain at its center, benches arranged around the perimeter. Then the mist closes in again, soft and forgiving. The lanterns flicker gently, oil flames steady in their glass enclosures. A weather vane atop a nearby building creaks slowly, turning toward the north. The tower stands as it has for decades, marking the hours for streets that no longer listen, counting time for a city wrapped in dreams and darkness. The view settles into stillness. Fog and lantern light, rooftop and stone, the distant spire and the silent streets, everything balanced in the quiet hours before dawn. The great brass mechanism turns behind the illuminated face, casting its golden glow downward, a steady beacon above the sleeping city. The night deepens, and the world below rests undisturbed. The fog thickens as the night deepens, pooling in the valleys between buildings like water finding its level. Individual rooftops emerge as dark islands, their edges softened by the pale mist that drifts and settles with patient, unhurried motion. A few chimneys rise above the blanket, their silhouettes barely visible against the deeper darkness of the sky. The lanterns far below glow dimmer now, their light diffused and scattered by the moisture in the air, creating halos of amber that fade into the surrounding gray. The clock face casts its golden illumination outward, a steady beacon above the sleeping streets. Its light catches on the moisture suspended in the air, creating a subtle radiance that extends a few meters beyond the glass before dissolving into the fog. The Roman numerals stand in sharp relief, their shadows falling across the inner mechanism, steady and unwavering. Beyond the curved panes, the city sprawls in layers of shadow and faint light, a patchwork of rooftops and narrow passages that stretch toward the horizon, all resting beneath the tower's constant, watchful glow. A church spire rises in the distance, its pointed peak just visible above the fog, a darker shape against the indigo sky. Scattered windows throughout the cityscape remain lit, tiny squares of warm yellow that suggest hearths still burning low, candles left to ward off the depth of night. The spaces between buildings hold complete darkness, the alleyways and courtyards invisible beneath their covering of mist. Everything rests in stillness, a city suspended in the quiet hours, breathing softly beneath the persistent rhythm of the clock's mechanism, the gentle grinding of gears a lullaby for the sleeping streets below. The tower stands anchored in its place, solid stone, rising from the earth, connected to the city yet apart from it. The fog continues its slow movement, advancing and receding in invisible currents, never fully revealing, never completely concealing. The lanterns below flicker occasionally, their flames sheltered but responsive to the night air. All remains peaceful, held in the embrace of darkness and the steady, dependable passage of time. The view through the glass stretches outward into the night, where rooftops emerge like gentle islands from the drifting fog. Chimney stacks stand in silent rows, their brickwork darkened by years of rain and soot. Between them, the narrow gaps of streets vanish into softness, traced only by the faint glow of lanterns that flicker at unseen corners. The fog moves slowly, rolling over slate and timber, muffling the edges of the city into a seamless quiet. A single lantern burns on a distant corner, its light wavering as moisture gathers on the glass panes of its casing. The cobblestones below lie hidden beneath the shifting veil, their surfaces slick and cool. Iron railings trace the edges of balconies and stairways, their curves softened by shadow and mist. Here and there, a window holds a faint amber glow. Curtains drawn against the chill, the city breathes in its rest. Each structure settled into stillness, each doorway closed and undisturbed. Above the rooftops, the fog thickens and thins in slow waves, revealing and concealing the landscape below. A weather vane turns gently on a nearby spire, its metal surface catching the faint reflection of the clock face light. The streets wind onward, curving out of sight, their paths known only by the rhythm of the stonework and the placement of the lamps. The night holds everything in balance, the weight of the city resting quietly beneath the tower's gaze. Wrapped in mist and memory, the clock face glows outward over it all, its light steady and warm against the cool air. Below, the fog continues its gentle drift, carrying with it the scent of damp stone and old wood. The city sleeps, timeless and still, cradled by the darkness and the soft embrace of the night. The fog thickens as the night deepens, rolling through the streets below in slow, undulating waves. It pools in the squares and courtyards, softening every corner, blurring the sharp edges of stone and tile. The lanterns become mere suggestions of light, their glow diffused into gentle halos that float suspended in the mist. The city breathes quietly beneath this veil, each chimney exhaling its own thin ribbon of smoke that mingles with the fog and vanishes into the darkness above. From this height, the rooftops form a patchwork of slate and terracotta, each surface slick with evening dew. Water gathers along the edges of gutters, dripping in slow, irregular rhythms that echo faintly against the cobblestones far below. The clockwork behind continues its eternal rotation, the great wheels turning with patient precision, marking time for the sleeping world. The brass mechanism glows warmly in the lamplight, each tooth and pivot performing its assigned duty without pause or complaint. The clock face itself stands as a beacon in the darkness, its painted numerals crisp against the illuminated dial. Through the glass, the city appears almost dreamlike, suspended in time beneath the tower's steady watch. A few scattered windows still hold candlelight, tiny points of warmth in the cool night air. The surrounding streets remain still, empty of movement, preserved in perfect quietude. Above it all, the mechanism continues its work, the pendulum swinging with hypnotic regularity, the escapement clicking softly as it measures out the hours of darkness. The night settles deeper, wrapping the tower and the city in its gentle embrace. The fog shifts and flows like a living thing, responding to invisible currents of air. Everything rests beneath this blanket of mist and shadow, safe and still, while the clock continues its endless count, faithful and unwavering through the quiet hours. The fog drifts lower now, settling into the cobbled squares and garden courtyards far below. Wisps curl around the base of street lamps, softening their amber glow into gentle halos that barely reach the sleeping windowsills. The mist moves with patient grace, flowing like a slow river through the narrow passages between buildings, erasing the sharper edges of the world and leaving only soft shapes in its wake. A few lanterns still burn in distant windows, their light muted and warm through lace curtains and thick glass. The rooftops stretch outward in layers, slate and tile, catching faint reflections from the clock face above. Chimneys stand silent, their brickwork cool and undisturbed. The city breathes in the stillness, resting beneath its blanket of night and mist, cradled in the quiet hours that belong to neither yesterday nor tomorrow. From this height, the world below seems small and gentle, a collection of sheltered lives gathered close against the darkness. The tower's steady heartbeat continues above, marking time for streets that do not stir, for doorways that remain closed, for windows that hold only the faintest glow. The fog thickens in the lowest places, pooling in alleys and around fountain bases, turning the city into a dreamscape of scattered light and shadow. The night deepens, and the view through the clock face grows softer still. Everything rests. Everything waits. The city sleeps beneath its watchful tower, safe in the embrace of fog and darkness, while time moves forward on its ancient gears, steady and unchanging, through the deepest hours of the night. The fog shifts and thickens in the spaces between buildings, pooling in alleyways and spreading across empty courtyards. Each street lamp burns through the mist with a steady amber glow, creating soft halos that float like distant stars against the pale gray blanket. The lantern light reflects off wet cobblestones far below, where the night's earlier rain has left dark mirrors across the winding streets. From this height, the rooftops form a landscape of their own. Terracotta tiles and slate shingles, layered in uneven patterns that follow the contours of the ancient streets. Dormers and chimneys rise like silent sentinels, their brickwork dark against the misty sky. A few scattered windows hold the faintest amber light, warm squares that glow softly before fading into darkness as the hour deepens. The fog continues its slow drift, wrapping the city in layers of quiet comfort. The clock face casts its golden light outward, illuminating the swirling fog that passes across the glass. Beyond the luminous dial, the city stretches into shadow and softness, its edges lost in the gentle darkness. The tower stands in its timeless vigil, the gears within continuing their steady rotation while the world below rests. Everything holds the deep stillness of late night, when sleep settles over stone and timber, and even the wind whispers rather than speaks. The distant horizon barely separates earth from sky, both wrapped in the same soft shades of midnight blue and charcoal. A few distant street lamps mark the curve of far boulevards, their light faint and dreamlike through the atmospheric haze. The sleeping city breathes quietly beneath its blanket of fog and night. Dust drifts through narrow shafts of light, suspended in the air like tiny stars. The illuminated clock face casts its warm golden glow through the tower's interior, creating long geometric shadows that stretch across the wooden platforms. Each particle catches the light for a moment before tumbling onward through the darkness, caught in currents too subtle to see. The air itself seems thick with time, layered and still, undisturbed by any movement beyond the constant turning of the mechanism. The largest gear at the heart of the assembly continues its patient rotation, teeth meshing with perfect precision into the wheels above and below. Brass surfaces worn smooth by countless revolutions gleam softly in the dim light, each groove and contour a testament to decades of unbroken motion. The escapement releases and catches with its steady rhythm, each tick a small controlled fall, each talk the arrest of momentum. Oil glistens in the bearing housings, dark and viscous, holding the weight of the entire mechanism in its careful embrace. Beyond the tower windows, the city sleeps beneath a canopy of stars. Rooftops fade into shadow, their terracotta tiles and slate shingles barely distinguishable from the darkness between them. A single lamp glows in a distant window, then extinguishes, leaving only the tower's own light to mark the hours. The night air presses close against the glass panes, cold and still. Inside, the warmth of the mechanism creates the faintest circulation, a gentle rising of heated air, past the gears and up toward the rafters, where the darkness gathers most completely. The pendulum swings in its narrow arc, a rhythm older than memory, more reliable than breath. Each pass divides time into identical fragments, each return journey the mirror of the last. The iron walkways encircling the mechanism stand empty and patient, their surfaces cool to the touch, their railings traced with the patina of age. Everything rests in its appointed place, waiting for nothing, simply continuing as it always has through the deepest hours of night. The grinding continues, a slow and patient conversation between wheel and axle. Each rotation follows the path worn into the brass over countless nights. The metal surfaces polished to a dull gleam by their endless contact. The great wheel turns, transfers its motion to the smaller gears, which spin with greater urgency yet the same unwavering rhythm. Oil seeps slowly along the grooves, catching the golden light, darkening the metal where it settles into the teeth. On the upper platform, a length of chain hangs motionless in the shadows, its links disappearing into the darkness above. The weight suspended far below keeps it taut, a silent anchor holding tension through the entire assembly. Nearby, a wooden beam shows the grain of centuries, its surface smooth where countless small vibrations have worn away the roughness. A brass bolt fixed into the timber reflects a pinpoint of light, steady and unwavering. The pendulum below continues its arc, the brass disc at its end catching and releasing the light with each pass. The rod flexes imperceptibly with every swing, storing and releasing energy in a rhythm as constant as breath. Shadows stretch and contract across the wooden boards beneath, marking time in their own silent way. The clock face beyond the mechanism glows softly, its illumination filtering back through gaps in the framework, painting everything in shades of amber and gold. The night deepens around the tower. The mechanism turns on, indifferent to the hour, indifferent to the darkness pressing against the windows. Each gear fulfills its purpose. Each pivot and bearing carries its load, and the great wheel continues its eternal rotation. The smallest hour is no different from any other within these walls of brass and wood and time. The stillness deepens as the night settles into its most profound hour. Oil reservoirs gleam faintly in the clockwork's golden light, their surfaces smooth and undisturbed. The weight chains hang in perfect vertical lines, their links following the ancient pull downward through the tower's core. Each component maintains its ordained position, calibrated by decades of patient adjustment and the slow teaching of gravity. A gear completes another rotation, its teeth withdrawing from their partner with the gentlest whisper of brass on brass. The escapement rocks forward, then back, measuring out the seconds with metronomic devotion. Dust continues its slow descent through the air, caught occasionally in the warm glow that radiates from the clock face above. The wooden platforms absorb the vibrations of the mechanism, grain by grain, translating motion into imperceptible warmth. Far below, the city rests in shadow, rooftops silvered by distant moonlight, filtering through passing clouds. The tower stands sentinel over empty streets and darkened windows, its steady rhythm continuing unwitnessed. Iron walkways ring the central shaft, their railings cool to the touch of passing air. The mechanism requires nothing beyond what it already possesses, asking only to continue its eternal conversation with time itself. The gears turn. The pendulum swings. The weights descend their measured distance. Another minute passes into the collection of hours, unmarked except by the faithful record kept in brass and iron, and the patient rotation of hands across an illuminated face. The oil lamp on the upper platform has burned lower, its flame reduced to a steady bead of amber light. Shadows settle more deeply into the corners where wooden beams meet ironwork, creating pockets of darkness that never quite reach the brass surfaces nearby. The pendulum continues its arc through the center of the chamber, a metronome of polished metal that catches and releases the glow from the clock face with each pass. A single feather, perhaps from a roosting pigeon high in the rafters, drifts downward in a slow spiral. It passes through one shaft of golden light, then another, moving with the gentlest of currents before coming to rest on the iron railing that circles the main gear assembly. The ticking surrounds it, unchanging, as constant as the stone walls that have held this mechanism for generations. The smaller gears near the top of the mechanism continue their precise rotation, teeth engaging and disengaging with the softer clicks that underlie the dominant rhythm. A few drops of oil cling to the edge of one brass wheel, gathering slowly until they merge and fall, landing silently on the wooden platform below. The scent of metal and old lubricant mingles with the faint mustiness of aged timber, a combination that has defined this space for decades. Outside, the city sleeps beneath a blanket of stars visible through the tower's high windows. Within these walls, the mechanism keeps its faithful count, gear against gear, weight descending, fraction by fraction, the great clock face, glowing like a beacon in the darkness. The small hours pass, measured and marked, steady and sure. The escapement wheel advances with methodical precision, tooth by tooth, measuring the passage of this quietest hour. Each click releases a whisper of energy through the train of gears, a pulse that travels along brass arbors and through pivot holes worn glass smooth by countless rotations. The oil in the bearings has long since settled into perfect equilibrium with the metal, reducing friction to nearly nothing. In this stillness, the mechanism operates at its most efficient, every component working in silent cooperation with every other. Moonlight filters through the western face of the tower, casting the Roman numerals in pale silver relief against the darkness beyond. The minute hand continues its gradual arc, moving so slowly that watching brings a sense of time itself, stretching and slowing. Shadows from the ornamental framework shift incrementally across the wooden platforms below, creating a slowly changing pattern of light and dark. The great weight hangs motionless in its descent shaft, suspended by the cable wound around the drum, its mass providing the steady force that drives everything above. A faint thermal current rises through the tower's central shaft, carrying with it the subtle scent of old wood and brass polish. This gentle upward flow stirs the dust motes into lazy spirals, each particle following invisible currents through the space between the gears. The pendulum rod gleams dully in the ambient light, its surface reflecting the soft glow from the clock face with each pass through the center of its arc. The rhythm continues, unchanging, a heartbeat that has measured decades of nights, just like this one. In the deepest part of the small hours, the tower exists in perfect balance. Gravity and tension, weight and resistance, motion and stillness, all held in delicate harmony. The mechanism asks nothing and gives everything, marking time with absolute reliability. As the city sleeps below and the stars wheel slowly overhead in their ancient patterns. The oil lamps have burned lower now, their wicks glowing with a softer amber warmth. Shadows stretch longer across the wooden platforms, draping over the iron railings in gentle folds. The brass gears continue their eternal rotation, each tooth engaging the next with the same unhurried precision that has marked every moment of this long night. A faint sweetness lingers in the air, the scent of lamp oil mixed with the mineral coolness of old stone. Far below, the city sleeps in absolute stillness. Not even the distant bark of a dog breaks the silence. Up here, The mechanism fills the void with its steady rhythm, a heartbeat of brass and iron that needs no rest. The great pendulum swings through its arc, slicing the darkness into measured intervals. Each pass stirs the air just enough to make the lamp flames waver, casting rippling patterns across the worn surfaces of the gears. The clock face beyond the glass continues to glow, a beacon of warm golden light suspended above the sleeping rooftops. The smallest gears near the top of the assembly turn with delicate precision, their miniature teeth catching and releasing in perfect sequence. These tiny mechanisms govern the finest increments of time, translating the power of the great wheels below into the smooth advance of the clock hands outside. A few specks of brass dust rest on the edge of a crossbeam, undisturbed for seasons. The wooden floorboards, darkened by decades of lamp oil and wear, absorb the soft light without reflection. Everything here exists in a state of calm perpetuity, each component fulfilling its purpose in the quietest hours before dawn approaches once more. The wooden platforms creak softly as temperature shifts with the approaching sunrise. Ancient timber responds to the subtle change in the air, boards expanding and contracting with gentle sounds that echo through the vertical chamber. The darkness that has cradled the tower through the long hours begins to thin, though the golden glow from the illuminated clock face still dominates the upper reaches. Far below, the first hint of gray light touches the eastern window openings, so faint it might be imagined, a whisper of what is to come. The brass gears continue their perpetual rotation, unmarked by the transition overhead. Each tooth engages with the same precision it has maintained through the entire night, the mechanism caring nothing for dawn or dusk, only for the steady passage of seconds into minutes, into hours. The metal surfaces, worn smooth by countless rotations, catch the shifting light differently now, as pale illumination begins to compete with the warm amber glow. Shadows that have held their positions for hours start to soften at their edges. Gradual and patient, cool air still dominates the tower's interior, clinging to stone and iron with the stubbornness of night. The iron walkways remain cold to the touch, their surfaces holding onto darkness, even as the sky beyond slowly forgets. Through the narrow openings, the city remains mostly silent, a collection of dim rooftops and quiet streets waiting for the day. Inside, the rhythmic ticking measures each moment with the same deliberate patience, the soundscape unchanged, the mechanical heartbeat as constant as ever. The tower stands between night and morning, holding both within its stone walls. The mechanism turns, the pendulum swings, the gears mesh and release. Time moves forward, indifferent and precise, as the first true light of dawn begins its slow approach across the distant horizon. The first rays touch the uppermost gears, painting brass surfaces with soft amber. Shadows retreat slowly down the vertical shaft, revealing details hidden through the night hours. Each tooth and wheel edge catches the growing light, transforming the mechanism into a sculpture of gold and copper tones. The clock face panels glow with renewed warmth as daylight meets the interior illumination, blending artificial and natural radiance into a gentle harmony. Dust motes drift through the slanting beams, visible now in ways the night concealed. The air itself seems to lighten, carrying the cool freshness of early morning through the tower openings. Metal surfaces warm degree by degree, expanding imperceptibly as the sun climbs higher beyond the city rooftops. The wooden beams and platforms settle into their daytime dimensions, adjusting to the change with quiet, patient sounds that blend into the constant rhythm of the clockwork. Below, the city begins to stir, though the tower remains a space apart, suspended between night's ending and day's full arrival. The mechanism continues its eternal count, indifferent to the transition unfolding around it. Cables sway gently in the warming air currents, their shadows dancing across iron walkways and wooden supports. The pendulum's arc catches the light with each pass, a metronome marking time, while the world outside shifts from darkness into morning. Dawn settles fully into the tower's interior, illuminating every corner that night had softened into shadow. The brass gleams brighter now, polished by decades of motion and touched by the new day's light. Everything continues as it has and will, the steady heartbeat of gears and weights maintaining their endless dialogue with time itself. Unchanged by the coming of another sunrise, the brass surfaces now glow with a softer quality, reflecting the gentle wash of early daylight that spreads across the mechanism. Dust motes hang suspended in diagonal beams, drifting lazily through the warming air. The great wheel continues its ancient rotation, each tooth catching the pale illumination as it passes through shadow and light. The steady rhythm persists, unchanged by the transition from darkness to dawn. Above, the iron framework stands silhouetted against the brightening sky, visible through the arched openings. The stone walls reveal textures unseen in the night, centuries of weathering etched into their surfaces. Delicate patterns of frost along the metal railings begin to glisten as the first true rays of sunlight reach them. The clock face beyond the gears transitions from golden lamp glow to translucent morning amber, blending artificial and natural light in gradual harmony. The wooden planks underfoot show their grain more clearly now, darkened by age and worn smooth along the paths of countless passages. Small gaps between boards reveal glimpses of the chamber below, where lighter shadows replace the deep blackness of night. The escapement continues its measured tick and release, a metronome for the tower's awakening. Everything speaks of continuity, of cycles completed, and beginning anew without pause or ceremony. The mechanism breathes with the patience of permanence, neither hurried by dawn nor slowed by night's departure. The morning settles into the tower with quiet assurance, filling spaces and touching surfaces with gentle, growing light. The growing daylight spreads across the tower's interior with patient inevitability. Beams of pale gold touch the uppermost gears first, illuminating the fine patina that decades of motion have worn into the brass surfaces. The light descends gradually, revealing the full height of the mechanism as shadows retreat into the corners and recesses. Dust motes drift lazily through the brightening air, tracing invisible currents that flow between the clock face openings and the stairwell below. A subtle warmth begins to permeate the chamber as the sun climbs beyond the horizon. The metal components expand ever so slightly in response, a microscopic adjustment that produces the faintest changes in tone from the steady ticking. The pendulum continues its measured arc, catching the morning light along its polished brass weight. The wooden platforms have settled into stillness now, their earlier creaking replaced by quiet stability as the temperature finds its daytime equilibrium. The clock face openings frame widening views of the awakening sky. Soft blues and fading pinks wash across the horizon, where stars have faded into memory. The ancient stonework around each opening holds the last coolness of night in its deep recesses, while exposed surfaces begin to absorb the gentle warmth of early morning. Below, the city emerges from darkness, rooftops and spires catching the first full light of day. The tower stands patient and steadfast, its mechanism marking each passing moment with the same unwavering rhythm it has maintained through the entire night. The transition from night to day completes itself without ceremony. Golden light floods the tower chamber now, illuminating every gear tooth, every chain link, every worn wooden board. The clock mechanism continues its eternal task, indifferent to the change in illumination, devoted only to the careful measurement of time as morning fully arrives above the waking city. The transformation continues as dawn advances steadily across the tower chamber. Pale light now reaches the lower tiers of the mechanism, illuminating brass surfaces that have remained in shadow through the long night hours. The golden glow from the clock face grows softer, less necessary, as natural morning light takes its place. Wooden beams release quiet groans as the tower adjusts to the changing temperature. Each creak a familiar voice in the morning chorus. The central gear assembly continues its perpetual rotation, now bathed in the cool gray-blue tones of early morning. Shadows that stretched long and deep during the night hours have shortened, revealing details previously hidden in darkness. Iron walkways glisten faintly where condensation has formed during the cooler hours before dawn. The steady rhythm of the escapement remains unchanged, a constant heartbeat marking time regardless of light or shadow, night or day. Morning light climbs higher along the stone walls, reaching toward the upper openings, where the sky has shifted from deep indigo to pale lavender. The tower chamber exists in a state of quiet transition, balanced between the stillness of night and the awakening day beyond its walls. Brass teeth mesh and release with the same precision they have maintained for decades, unaffected by the changing quality of light that now fills the space around them. The wooden platforms rest more quietly now, their adjustments to temperature complete. The mechanism stands steady in the growing light, its countless components working in seamless harmony. Another night has passed within the tower chamber. Another dawn has arrived, and the great clock continues its patient measurement of hours. The ancient gears turn on, keeping faithful time as morning light spreads across the waking city below. The brass gears continue their eternal rotation as the first delicate rays of morning touch the tower's uppermost openings. Thin beams of pale gold slice through the darkness, illuminating particles of dust that drift in lazy spirals around the mechanism. The light catches on polished gear teeth, creating brief flashes of brilliance that travel in rhythm with each revolution. The shadows that have held the tower through the night begin to recede, retreating into corners and beneath the wooden platforms. The clock face, luminous throughout the darkness, now meets the competition of natural light, filtering through the tall arched windows. The amber glow from within grows softer, gentler, as dawn's cooler light spreads across the glass panes. The ancient weights hang steady in their channels, their surfaces beginning to emerge from shadow as morning advances. Each cable remains taut, each pulley aligned. The entire assembly, undisturbed by the changing light around it. The iron walkways absorb the first warmth of the approaching sun, their metal framework expanding with the minutest whispers of adjustment. Wood grain on the platforms becomes visible once more, the knots and whirls in the planking revealed by the strengthening light. The stone walls, cool and gray through the night, begin to show their true texture, centuries of weathering written in every surface. The mechanical heart of the tower continues without pause, its rhythm unchanged by the transition from darkness to day. Morning settles quietly into the tower's interior, blending with the golden glow of the clock face, to fill the space with gentle illumination. The gears turn onward, their brass surfaces warm in the mingled light, their purpose constant as the world outside awakens to another day. The ticking continues, steady and sure, a measured heartbeat that bridges night and morning without distinction. Gears turn, pendulums swing, and time marches forward in perfect, unending rhythm. The first pale light of dawn filters through the narrow lancet windows, casting long silver beams across the brass mechanisms. Dust motes drift lazily through the illuminated air, catching the warming glow as night surrenders to morning. The great wheel rotates with its ancient constancy, each tooth engaging the next in the same patient sequence performed countless times before. The escapement continues its steady release and catch, release and catch. The heartbeat that has measured every sunrise over this city for generations. Beyond the tower walls, the eastern sky deepens from indigo to rose, painting the rooftops in gradients of amber and gold. The clock face begins to glow differently now, the warm artificial light blending with the cool natural dawn. Shadows shift and soften across the wooden platforms, revealing the texture of age-darkened oak and the grain of countless seasons. The pendulum sways through its arc, a constant against the changing light, its polished weight reflecting both lamplight and daybreak in equal measure. Oil gleams in the recesses where metal meets metal, the careful maintenance evident in every smooth rotation. The ticking fills the chamber with its unchanging cadence, a sound as much a part of the tower as the stone and timber themselves. Morning air flows gently through the mechanisms, carrying the faint scent of warming metal and aged wood. Counterweights hang suspended in their channels, the iron masses poised in their slow, inevitable descent. Every gear wheel meshes with its neighbor in perfect alignment, the spaces between teeth precise and deliberate. The clock's interior settles into the rhythm of a new day, yet the rhythm itself remains timeless. As daylight strengthens beyond the tower, the machinery continues its eternal work. The great mechanism breathes with the patience of centuries, turning, measuring, marking each moment with the same care given to the moment before and the moment yet to come. Time flows forward, constant and unceasing. Morning light climbs higher through the tower windows, illuminating dust motes that drift lazily through the still air. The brass surfaces of the great wheels gleam brighter now, reflecting pools of amber and gold across the wooden platforms. Each shaft and pinion catches the sun in turn, transforming the mechanical heart of the tower into a constellation of gleaming metal. The rhythm remains unchanged, the same patient cadence that has marked every dawn before this one. The clock face outside filters daylight through its glass panels, casting luminous circles onto the inner workings. Shadows of the painted numerals stretch across gear teeth and iron framework, slowly rotating as the sun continues its climb. The warm glow that illuminated the tower through darkness begins to fade, rendered unnecessary by the natural light that now fills every corner. Oil lanterns rest quiet in their brackets, their wicks cool, their purpose fulfilled until nightfall returns. The counterweights hang steady in their stone channels, the cables taut and true. Each component settles into its daytime warmth, metal expanding by invisible increments, accounted for in the design of decades past. The escapement mechanism continues its precise interruption, releasing energy in measured intervals, converting the slow descent of weights into the regulated motion of time itself. No hurry, no hesitation, only the faithful repetition of function. Beyond the tower walls, the city awakens to another day. But within this chamber, the passage of hours is marked only by the patient revolution of wheels. The cycle continues, unbroken and eternal, as constant as the stone beneath and the sky above. The gears will turn, the pendulum will swing, and time will march forward, measured and true, as it always has, as it always will. The mechanism continues its eternal work, unbroken by the coming of dawn. Every gear rotates in perfect communion with its neighbors, the brass teeth meshing with the same precision they have maintained for decades. The warm golden glow from the illuminated clock face mingles now with the pale blue light filtering through the tower windows, casting new shadows across the iron walkways and wooden platforms. Below, the city stirs gently into wakefulness, but within the tower, nothing changes. The steady rhythm persists. The counterweights descend at their measured pace. The escapement wheel advances tooth by tooth. Oil glistens on the moving surfaces, lubricating the endless cycle. The pendulum swings through the brightening air, its arc as constant as the passing of seconds themselves. Sunlight climbs the tower's exterior stonework, creeping higher with each passing minute that the mechanism faithfully counts. The clock face glows less urgently now, its purpose shared with the natural light of morning. Yet the machinery asks nothing of the sun, needs nothing beyond its own mechanical perfection. The ticking continues, the grinding hum of brass on brass, the whisper of air displaced by the great wheels in their orbits. Time flows onward, measured and marked, eternal and unchanging. The tower stands, the gears turn, the pendulum swings, and the cycle continues, as it always has, as it always will. The first pale light of morning reaches through the eastern windows, casting long, soft beams across the worn wooden platforms. Dust motes drift slowly through the illuminated air, catching gold and silver as dawn strengthens beyond the glass. The brass gears continue their patient rotation, their surfaces catching the new light, reflecting back the promise of another day, measured and marked, in perfect increments. Outside, the city below begins to stir beneath a sky of pale rose and lavender. The clock face glows softer now in the growing daylight, its golden illumination blending with the natural warmth of sunrise. The tower stands tall and steady above the waking rooftops, its silhouette dark against the brightening eastern horizon. Within the mechanism chamber, shadows retreat into corners as daylight claims the space, revealing every gear tooth, every oil-darkened joint, every precisely calibrated component in gentle clarity. The great pendulum swings through its arc, a constant motion unaffected by the shift from night to day. Its brass weight catches the morning light with each pass, a steady metronome beneath the endless turning of wheels and pinions. The ticking resonates through iron walkways and stone walls, a rhythm that has marked countless dawns before this one and will mark countless more to come. The tower breathes with mechanical precision, every component fulfilling its purpose as it has for decades, as it will for decades yet. Time flows forward, measured and certain. The cycle continues, eternal and unchanging, as morning light fills the tower and the city awakens below to another day, marked by the steady, faithful turning of gears. The tower watches as the last stars fade from view, the sky transforming from deep indigo to the softest shades of rose and gold. Through the tall, arched windows, the first rays of morning sunlight stream across the mechanism chamber, painting the brass gears in warm amber light. Shadows shift and recede from the wooden platforms, retreating into corners as daybreak fills the ancient space with renewed radiance. The great clock face glows from within, its luminous panels catching the dawn light and reflecting it back across the awakening city below. The steady rhythm of the escapement continues without pause, each measured tick blending with the quiet sounds of morning birds beginning to stir in the eaves. The iron walkways warm slightly in the growing light, their cold edges softened by the gentle heat of the rising sun. Dust motes drift through the sunbeams, floating lazily in the still air between the turning wheels and suspended weights. The counterbalance chains hang motionless, except for their slow, imperceptible descent, their purpose eternal and unchanging. The tower stands as it has for decades, a constant sentinel marking the passage of hours with the same patient dedication it has shown through countless cycles of darkness and light. The mechanism breathes with mechanical life, every gear and lever fulfilling its design purpose in perfect harmony. Time flows forward, measured and kept, preserved within the brass heart of this timeless structure standing watch over the city below. The first pale light of dawn filters through the eastern windows, casting long soft beams across the brass machinery. Dust motes drift lazily through the golden shafts, illuminated like tiny stars in the tower's upper chamber. The great gears continue their patient rotation, indifferent to the changing sky beyond the glass. Each tooth meshes with perfect precision, worn smooth by countless mornings, just like this one. Each revolution, a continuation of the endless cycle that has defined this place for generations. The clock face begins to glow more brightly as daylight strengthens. The translucent panels warming from deep amber to pale gold. Shadows shift gradually across the wooden platforms, retreating toward the western side of the chamber as the sun climbs higher. The pendulum's arc remains steady, its passage through light and shadow, marking each second with quiet authority. Below, the city awakens, but within these stone walls the rhythm stays constant, unchanged by the world beyond. Morning air seeps through the narrow ventilation grills, carrying the faint coolness of retreating night. The ancient stones around the mechanism hold their temperature, neither warm nor cold, providing stability for the delicate balance of weights and springs. Every component rests in its proper place, fulfilling the purpose for which it was forged and fitted. The tower stands as it always has, a monument to precision and patience, measuring out the hours with tireless devotion as another day begins. The ticking continues, steady and sure, a heartbeat of brass and iron that knows no pause. Time flows onward through the turning wheels, through the measured swing of the pendulum, through each deliberate click of the escapement. The cycle remains unbroken, eternal, as constant as the stone beneath and the sky above. May the steady ticking of the tower's mechanism guide you into restful sleep. If this story brought you peace, please like and subscribe for new tales published every week. Good night.